Welcome to the Daily Agenda. Well, I'm sure you've all recovered from the YouTube caused glitch last night, haven't you? Hopefully. Well, first of all, I'd like to start by saying thank you to everyone who bought the mega merchandise. That's Make England Great Again and Make England Germanic Again. Because in truth, when you're seen out there on the streets wearing that merchandise, it will achieve exactly what I wanted it to achieve, which was just a talking point. And I say just a talking point, actually that's the most important thing about it. The talking point creates interest from other people. It sparks off curiosity, and you can strike up a conversation with them and explain to them what your political position is and what it actually means. You know, and that is the whole point about persuading people to get the merchandise and wear it in public, so as to spark off this public interaction with other people, particularly the centre-right people who really aren't centre-right at all, but they've been lured into that trap. We can still lure them out of it. Not all of them, it's not possible. You know, you must understand that there is a percentage factor. Some of them can be saved and brought over to nationalism. Some of them are doomed, and they will always be centre-right lemmings. It really is that simple. And talking of so-called centre-right lemmings, that brings us to the point of tonight's podcast, Nigel Farage. Of course, the UTK pantomime is now over. And the Civil War fantasy that raised with it. I mean, actually, I do believe a civil war will happen. Most definitely. Because of primary balkanisation, and I've always made that perfectly clear. It will happen, but it's not going to happen this way, by being pumped and promoted by a cabal of people who couldn't fight their way out of a wet-through paper bag, which was proved on the 13th, was it not? So now phase 2 of the pantomime kicks in, and this time it's the Deportations Act with Nigel fake Farage. Who else? Because he's the principal actor in the safety valve operation. Tom is just the slotting guy, the number 2. They draw him out whenever they need him. And now they need Nigel, because they've exhausted the Tommy Tard factor. And everybody's become really bored with it. And because there's not another cocaine jamboree slotted in for the next 2 to 3 weeks, then of course they're going to have to look elsewhere for there. That's entertainment. And that's all this is. It's entertainment for the plebs, for the lemmings, or the mongs, whichever faction you wish to, to apportion blame to. But that's where we're at. So, Nigel Farage, 600,000 deportations, never happened in a million years. Never happened in a million years. Now, I must remember a year ago, he told the Winston Marshall show that mass deportations, physically and politically impossible, and he wasn't going down that road, and he wasn't going to be lured into that ambush at all in any way, shape or form, and he didn't support it, and that he felt he couldn't win without Islam. And then, of course, the U-turns started to begin, because Nigel Farage is the expert U-turn instructor. In fact, he's better than any drive instructor at teaching new drivers how to do U-turns, because he is the king of U-turns. And so Flip-Flop Farage has done yet another flip-flop, or has he? Because we've seen Farage talk this nonsense many times before, and then he does a complete about-face. He's like the god Janus, one face to the past, one face to the future, and both of them duplicitous and dishonest and untrustworthy. And that's what Nigel Farage really is. So, in fact, if we go back to May 2016, the month before the EU ref, in which he betrayed everyone in the early hours of the morning of the 24th of June 2016 by quitting and making a deal with the establishment to that effect, he actually said Syrian migrants, illegal migrants that is, Syrian illegal migrants were welcome in this country because they were only entering this country illegally. Now he's saying, oh, well, now the thing is, you know, if they're illegal, then they've got to go back. See, yet another complete about-face from Janus, the two-faced snake. And that's what Nigel Farage is. Now, no doubt his lemmings will be on the channel, as they usually do, to say, oh no, this is very unfair. And Nigel has always been consistent and honest. Nigel is a consistent, incurable liar and a fantasist. Absolutely no doubt about it. As for being honest, honest about what? I've never seen an ounce of honesty crawl out of Farage's mouth in all of these years I've been studying him. This is the man, after all, who climbed into bed with hope, not hate, in 2010 and lied his way through it for the next few years until Gawain Towler actually came out and confirmed that what I exposed about them in 2011 was completely true. Okay? And all of his mongs fell for that one as well. When he told them there was no truth in it, it was a complete lie, and he was handing over their restricted private information to Nick Lowles and the communists at Hope Not Hate. There you go. Is this the type of person who can be trusted on deportations, on immigration of any description? So let's say, even for example, fake Farage succeeded over a 5-year parliament to deport 600,000 people. Biting into the Boris wave. Well, it doesn't bite into the Boris wave at all, because the official estimate of the Boris wave is 3.2 million. And if my mathematics serve me correctly, and I think they do, 600,000 is not the same, is it? Yeah, so there seems to be a very clear failing on the mathematics issue, which is hardly surprising, because everything that's basic with Farage usually falls apart quite quickly, in truth. And so, therefore, there will be no real biting into the Boris wave. The Boris wave will stay here. This is all hypothesis, theoretical. But this is Farage's domain, isn't it? The domain of the theoretical, the hypothesis, yes. Hypothetically, he's conned people into thinking that he's some champion of mass deportations, after telling people that he had no intention of deporting any of these people because it was physically and politically impossible. So which version of the fake Farage show do people actually believe? I'll tell you what they believe. They believe the latest thing that comes out of his mouth, because they're incapable of believing anything else, certainly nothing that's constructive, true, factual or honest. And that is the truth. So if Farage said today, no, we're going to let them all stay in the country, people would grumble and rant about it. And then if in a month's time he said, no, we're going to kick them all out of the country, they believe that as well. They believe that because they're so desperate. You see, the entire centre-right, and if we can actually class Farage in the centre-right bracket any longer, is he really centre-right? Because he's swung so far to the left, they've even got defectors now from the Labour Party who are also members of the Fabian Society. Shouldn't surprise anyone, they've had people from the Revolutionary Communist Party, haven't they? My goodness, what a cesspit of leftism deep fake reform is. And also in its policies. So this deportations scam, and that's all it is, there's no truth in any of it. How could it ever happen? There's one major stumbling block, and it's not just fake Farage, he is the biggest stumbling block of the lot. The biggest stumbling block of the whole drama, this deportations pantomime, that's now been engineered after the little Tommy Roadshow has come to an end, is this. Farage does not want to leave the 1951 UN Refugee Convention, nor does he want to leave any UN Refugee Compact. Instead, in his deluded, egotistical arrogance, he said once, and this is the only time he said it, I believe I can negotiate a better deal for Britain with the United Nations. So the United Nations, a communist organisation, no wonder Farage can talk to them, he's very au fait with communism, is just going to make an exception for Britain. Okay? Replacement migration, isn't that a UN document? Yes, that's right, it's a UN document, isn't it? Replacement migration means the ethnic replacement of white people. Okay? We're constantly told it's a conspiracy theory. Well, if it's a conspiracy theory, why has the UN drawn up a document about replacement migration? Because it is just conspiracy fact. And when we say conspiracy fact, it's just policy. It's policy fact. So Nigel Farage believes he can go to the UN, having done a public relations stunt and pulled out of the ECHR, the Council of Europe. Now, what will that actually do? Oh, so the Council of Europe will say, well, Britain is now in the same league as Russia. So what? Who cares, quite frankly? You know, if it stops the invasion of our country, and that's all good by me. But the point is, it doesn't. stop the invasion of our country by illegals at all, because this is where the bad optics are now focusing on. They're not focusing on the real problem, which is 1 million legal immigrants a year, which has caused the primary balkanization of our major cities and the balkanization of other cities. And eventually it's all going to come together in a giant train smash called primary balkanization, which people call civil war. Okay? Nigel Farage is not going to do anything to stop that at all. If anything, if he wants to tinker around the edges with deportations, it's more likely to provoke it. Now, the left are already in rankles because, you know, it's laughable, really. You know, Farage has been actually colluding with the left for years. For years, seriously. We're going on now 15 years he's been colluding with the left. But the left is saying, oh, well, Farage, you know, he's as bad as Hitler. Shows you how deluded and demented the left has become, doesn't it? If they think Nigel fake Farage is as bad as Adolf Hitler. It's astonishingly stupid, truly. But that's the modern left for you. And most of the centre-right are exactly the same. Astonishingly stupid. Well, I'm not astonished by anything the centre-right does anymore because, you know, I've seen all their stupid antics countless times before. So, okay, Farage leaves the ECHR. Oh, hey presto, wonderful. We're now on the land of milk and honey. Our freedom is about to be resurrected. Is it? So, Farage schedules. This is all hypothesis, by the way. This is not factual. This is hypothesis because we're dealing with Nigel's hypothetical little world. And so, he schedules the first 1,000 deportations. And there's an immediate legal challenge to it, yeah, by a left-wing collective, well-financed, well-organised. And they go to the courts and they argue the 1951 UN Refugee Convention, thus stopping the deportations. Yes? And so apparently the government can't act if the corrupt judiciary makes a ruling saying they can't do it. And then that throws up another question, you know, do we really need this corrupt judiciary anymore? I argue that we don't need them. We've not needed them for a very long time. And that's going to spark off an even bigger conflict between the people and the judiciary. You see where I'm going with this? Into primary balkanization, the civil war they keep talking about. Oh, what was it Professor David Betts said to me? He just wondered if the doxing of judges would actually transform into a Northern Ireland situation at some stage whereby paramilitary units would target them. Well, who knows, maybe it will. I don't know. I don't have the magnum opus on these things. My crystal ball's at home. I'll have to bring it out next time, perhaps. For all the good it might do. Oh, we've got Chopper Squad coming overhead. Hope it's not dropping off more bullshit from Nigel Farage. But then again, you know, it might be useful to use in this podcast. So speaking of bullshit and Nigel Farage, that's exactly what his deportation scam is, isn't it? Because if he can't leave the 1951 UN Refugee Convention, UN migration compacts of any description, there will be no deportations. We're just heading into a mire of engineered conflict, slowing it down, drawing it out. If Farage was serious about deporting anyone, he would have a twofold policy, and I dare say at some stage he's going to change his tune on this one as well. Because this is what fake Farage does. He waits for the Overton window to be changed in a certain direction, and then when it becomes safe for him to move in that direction and to speak about it, because he's a coward by nature, utterly a coward, he then might say, highly likely he'll say, well, we're going to have to take a serious look at leaving the 1951 Refugee Convention. Why do you need to take a serious look at it? You just need to do it. You cannot just leave the ECHR and think you can deport X amount of illegals without leaving the UN Refugee Convention at the same time. It has to be a twofold policy. It has to be done at exactly the same time. Of course, it would make Britain a social pariah on the communist stage, the globalista. Good. Who cares? I don't care in any way, shape or form. Because I can tell you for a fact, if I was the elected leader of this country, or slotted into position by some other means, because leaders aren't always elected, are they? Sometimes they come to power as a result of civil war and revolution. So, and that's what they keep talking about, isn't it? Civil war and revolution. then what I can tell you for a fact is the 1951 UN Refugee Convention and the ECHR would be history within 24 hours. Guaranteed. Gone, done. The letters would be dispatched the next day. And the process of deportations would begin. There would be no legal challenge in any court. Absolutely no legal challenge in any court, because these leftist organisations would be rebranded as terrorist organisations and a threat to national security. None of this is ever going to happen under Nigel Farage. This is how the problem can be fixed. In fact, it's the only way it can be done, and it cannot be done without conflict. I absolutely guarantee you. Whichever way you try to tackle mass deportations, it will lead to conflict. And even if Farage does succeed in deporting several thousand of them, there will be riots across this country orchestrated by the far left. How's he going to respond to it when he's a weakling and he's been in bed with the left for 15 years, I know of certain? Is he going to take advice and counsel from Nick Lowell's, for example? So I think we can see perfectly clearly that Farage, the weakling, you know, who is not a messiah, he's not even a Monty Python messiah. Quite frankly, Farage is not the man to save Britain. And as for this stepping stones factor, let me put you back in touch with the real world. Nigel Farage is the tiniest microscopic pebble on the beach, if you want to look at it, in a stepping stones factor in terms of what it could lead to. Certainly, the orchestrated failure of a reform regime would lead to greater radicalisation. But think ahead now. Right in the very moment. That would take at least another 8 years, would it not? And how many more will have come into the country by then? 8 million? 10 million? Plus the illegals? Yes? Thus pushing us ever closer to the giant train smash that is primary balkanisation. So I would say, quite frankly, when Farage talks all this nonsense about mass deportations, it's all pie in the sky fantasy. We are on a fast track to primary balkanisation. And that's all that I see happening, quite frankly. That is all that I see happening. I can't lie to you. I can't give you false hope, because that means I would be living in false hope as well. And I have no false hopes. I'm a pragmatist, a realist. All I see ahead is primary balkanisation and the giant train smash that it causes in society. So that's all I can say to you. I'm not promoting revolution or civil war. I'm certainly not being paid for it. No, I'm just investing all of my own money into this channel and into the merchandise and into every single aspect of this operation, whilst the vast majority of nationalists just sit back and do nothing, contribute nothing, and expect everything to be done for them. But hey, that's me, isn't it? Not the vast majority of nationalists who are doing absolutely nothing other than watching channels, as I said. Okay? And if they actually want to do something meaningful, then they need to start getting more proactive. But I'll close tonight with all the people I want to thank who bought the book, Patriot Games, in particular, in the political context, because that gives you the ammunition to be able to deal with the centre riot in the most accurate manner that you possibly can, so that you can understand what the centre riot really is. It's an organised criminal gang. Okay? And you need to be able to spit that at them. All of those examples in there backed up with hard evidence. This is how you dismantle the centre right in the battle that is coming. And for all those who've bought the merchandise, both the Make England Germanic Again and also Make England Great Again, that is a positive step forward, because you're actually doing something proactive. You're going to go out there and showcase this issue and spark off a talking point. Wherever you go, you will spark off a talking point. You will become a walking, talking activist for nationalism just by wearing that apparel. Now do you see what I was thinking behind it? I don't have to make everything perfectly clear in advance, do I? Absolutely not. Otherwise the enemy would have advance notification of what I was thinking. And that must never be allowed to happen. I think the words of Lord Wellington before the Battle of Waterloo, when his senior officers asked him what his battle plan was, and he said, if I thought for 1 minute my left arm knew what my right arm was doing, I'd cut it off. And that's my strategy as well. Don't expect me to announce strategic thinking and blueprints here on this channel or anywhere else. No, absolutely not. But be assured that everything is in order. and it's been done for your best interest, but you need to be far more proactive, and you need to do that from tonight onwards. Okay, thank you for tuning into the Daily Agenda, and I hope there are no glitches tonight.